You can support this podcast and get shows early and ad-free, as well as bonus episodes over at patreon.com/flashback64.
Your will, sire.
Welcome to another episode of Flashback 64, normally the chronological Nintendo 64 podcast. I'm Gooey, joined as always by McKenna.
Hello.
But today we're talking about the computer.
That's computer games.
Computer game.
Hey kid, I'm a computer.
I'm a computer. Stop all the downloading. And that was the voice of our guest returning to the show. One of the most computer guys I know, Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Yeah, and I'm extremely a PC guy, and I'm not talking about politically correct. Actually, I am also that.
Yeah, we're all pretty PC here.
Also woke.
This is a PC and / woke podcast for sure. So welcome back to the show. We're
so happy to be back, especially for this topic.
Yes, we're going to be talking about Warcraft, Orcs, and Humans. Really excited to get into that. We've talked about games on the show before that are more notably known as like PC games from the 90s, like Quake and I'm mostly thinking of shooters, I guess, that were the big ones we've encountered so far. But that would be fun to take a look at stuff that was big at the time but didn't make it onto N64, much like we've done like with our PS1 episodes. And I'm looking forward to it. I feel like it's a different world now. Like PC gaming is obviously still so big, but I feel like it's become like before, like when we talk about PC gaming in the 90s, I feel like it is more akin to like a whole separate like thing where there's a lot more crossover now. So I feel like McKenna, you do a ton of gaming on your PC now, but like I don't know. I know you did some PC gaming as a kid as well, but it feels like you've more existed in a world where it's crossed over into, you know, the main, or not the mainstream, but you know, it's more mixed around.
I guess I remember a time where there were games I played that were computer games.
You had to go sit on the computer,
but probably by the time I was a teenager, that had gone away. It was cross, a lot of cross-platform stuff.
Yeah, and I know we'll talk about it, but you have some experience with the topic today, which is
a little bit.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. I know. So Ryan, I know, like obviously you have standard issue computing, and we've had you on the show talking about games like Quake and stuff. So it's no secret, but like what was your kind of personal computer situation in the 1990s?
So after after I was born and my mom was like a stay-at-home mom for 6 or 7 or 8 years, she decided to go to college, which she had not done. And so when she started college, she bought a computer for our household, and this was like late 80s, early 90s. I was still like a fairly small child, and like I remember my parents were also like, you should use this computer to like learn and stuff. So they got me like the games from like MECC, Mech, who published they published Oregon Trail at one point. They became absorbed into the Learning Company down the road. But like the first game I remember playing on a computer was Number Munchers.
Yes, I recall this. Yeah.
And so and then I was like, okay, a computer's cool, but it's not as cool as my NES. But then I became friends in middle school with a kid also named Ryan, whose parents, his dad worked at Gateway. And so I went over to his house one day, and they had like 3 like hardcore computers set up in the basement.
Whoa,
and
okay.
it was the first time I'd seen a CD-ROM drive. And and he started like showing me all this stuff. I think that was maybe when I saw like Wing Commander 3 for the first time, and I was like, oh my god, there's like, and because at this point I was like playing on like Sega Genesis and stuff, and I was like, this is insane, like this is real, and like Myst and all that. And then like I would go over, and he and his dad would just get games and games all from work, and and like we just started experimenting. He like had a modem in the mid 90s and was like, this is how you go to forums and websites and download video games, and then they just appear on your computer and you don't go to a store to buy them. And like,
crazy.
Here's shareware and all this stuff. So then from there I was like, whoa, computers are like badass. And and like I still like obviously like played on console and stuff, but I've pretty much always had a PC. I started like building my own PCs in the late 90s, and like my friends and I were on to like LAN parties and stuff. Which shout out to Flashback 64 guest Merritt K on
LAN
the
party,
wonderful hardcover book I have over on a shelf there. It totally captures the LAN party vibe. Buy that book. But yeah, and then my kind of how this leads to Warcraft is I was following like the PC scene. My friend would also get like PC Gamer and Computer Gaming World and all these like PC magazines, and like you would just see Warcraft around, and then eventually Command and Conquer. And I really wanted to play this game. Never got the original Warcraft, but then for a good report card, I was allowed to buy a game in 95, I think. And it was right when Warcraft 2 came out, and I bought it and was like, whoa, this is amazing. So yeah, I've been a fan of the series ever since.
Wow, that's so cool. I feel like for me, I had those early moments with because we got a computer when I was pretty young, but I recall like my first games playing on it were like Wolfenstein is one of the first games I remember. I think I mentioned that before, but thinking back on it now, like I guess it's not that crazy of a thing, but like I'm guessing we had probably a relatively old computer at the time, because this would have been in like the mid 90s. Like Doom, like Quake was probably already out at this point, and I was playing Wolfenstein, you know, so I imagine we probably had some like budget computer. And then I think like the late 90s, early 2000s, we had something that was a bit more standard, like more up to date. I wouldn't never for like gaming, but you know, stuff you could play. Like I would play like SimCity, some real-time strategy games as well. We'll talk about. Once I moved out like on my own, like didn't really have a computer, like I would have like a laptop or whatever for a period of time. Like I would occasionally get games and play them on my laptop, but that's where I became more of like that. Like that, before then I was never like an up-to-date PC gamer. It would always be like I play one addictive strategy game like SimCity for hours and hours at a time, and then like for like a week, and then I'm like, okay, and I have like hangover from it, and then like couple months later, like that, or like Civilization, even still, now that I have more access to games like that, I will just occasionally be like, all right, I'm going to play this for 8 hours and it's like, okay, I need to take a break from that. So,
oh man,
I've always had that kind of separation. So, okay, so you mentioned the time period and like going from Sega Genesis to something like you're saying like Wing Commander or whatever else on PC, like something more cutting edge. So I do have like a little flashback segment because I think this is an interesting period of time. So
the humans draw near.
Flashback to November 15th, 1994, when Warcraft Orcs and Humans came out. So I have just some stuff from November 1994. The number one song, 14 weeks at number one, I'll Make Love to You by Boyz II Men. Great track.
It is.
Number one album, MTV Unplugged, Nirvana. Great. And number one movie, Interview with a Vampire.
They live for the pleasure.
I can see you lying on a bed of satin.
The passion.
You made us what we are, didn't you?
The thrill.
It's the only real Eva left.
And they will live forever. Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Interview with the Vampire. Rated R. Now playing at a theater near you.
Love it.
We got a round of applause. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. We have not watched that together, but maybe we should.
It's so good. It still holds up. I watched it like last year again, and it was a banger.
Okay, not a banger. This was also when the midterms happened. Everyone remembers and loves the Republican Revolution, where they took over both the House and Senate for the first time in, I can't remember, decades. And now look where we are now. It's also horrible.
Yeah. Always works out great for people.
We won't dwell on that. I have something for you, Ryan. Michael Schumacher wins his first F1 World Championship.
Ooh.
He beat out Damon Hill.
Okay.
After they collided in the final race, but he got more points than him. So
was Schumacher? Was this at Ferrari yet, or no? This would have been.
This is as deep as I go.
Okay.
Gaming wise, just thinking, I like thinking about this compared to like what was going on in gaming at the time.
Wait, this was Donkey Kong Country time, right?
Yes, a few days before Donkey Kong Country,
and Sonic and Knuckles as well, I believe.
And okay, so Sega, you had the 32X was released, the add-on to the Genesis. We're weeks before the Japan releases of the PS1 and the Saturn, and also spring of 94 or 94. The N64 was revealed, so we're like, this is like a
Ultra
crazy era.
64.
No other system will offer this dimension of realism. No other manufacturer can promise this scope of play. With this marriage of game-making expertise and technical wizardry, home video entertainment just took on a whole new dimension.
So yeah, interesting time for gaming. We're kind of at like a crossroads between I guess generations, you could say, or the gaming world just always is kind of. I think that's what PC gaming really unlocks for me, is that like it's not really like there were like generations really, it's like gaming is always just kind of like changing and evolving, and there's like these parallel things that sometimes line up, but when you look at just like a snapshot of like this month, it's weird. It's cool. Before we talk about the game specifically, since we're kind of in this flashback zone, I guess I want to talk about the real-time strategy game. This is our first time really talking about one. We will be talking about one on the N64 at some point, related to two of them. Yeah, right. So, but I thought it would be fun to kind of actually go back and talk about not the first one, but I feel like one of the foundational ones kind of like broke out into the mainstream. But I thought, like it's not the first one. Maybe we could talk about the origins of the real-time strategy game. For me, this is like the oldest one I've played that like is in this form, but obviously Blizzard was heavily inspired by games that came before it, like Dune 2 is the big one.
Meet your mission's objectives, and you'll get a promotion in rank, more troops, more resources to command, and another different battlefield. But remember, your ultimate goal is to take the entire planet and eliminate your enemies. Don't rest on your laurels until the war is won in Dune: The Battle for Arrakis from Virgin Games.
It almost sounds like they were like really like, let's try to make that, but in a medieval setting. But Ryan, do you have much history with Dune 2, or maybe just the genre or anything else that came before it?
Yeah, I didn't play Dune 2 until maybe a few years ago. But I know there was a Sega Genesis port, which I had a friend who was like obsessed with. But also, like, there's like this weird, like, the real-time strategy genre is like a very PC genre, but it's also kind of like a weirdly Sega Genesis genre.
Right.
Because there was Herzog, how do I say this? Sve? Sorry, my German is not up to snuff, but that came out, and Westwood Studios, who made Dune 2 Battle for Arrakis, and it's called something else in its MS-DOS version, they were actually inspired by this Genesis game from Technosoft, who made the Thunder Force series. Yeah, that's just like a very weird origin point, and I think it was those Genesis games probably reached a larger audience than the Dune PC game, which is more of what, you know, I think we kind of think of as a real-time strategy game. And also there's like dozens of games that like people that came before these games that people will argue are like, actually, this is the first real-time strategy game, like, so this like Intellivision game, Utopia, I think it's called. And but like what we think of as real-time strategy games started with kind of Herzog Sve, but then really Dune, and then it just like exploded in popularity between Warcraft and Command and Conquer and StarCraft and Total Annihilation, all this stuff, like it just kind of built from there. But I mean, Dune is kind of the one I would say is like the origin point, which is just, it's so interesting because like Dune was like, I don't know. I don't know any old school Dune fans who be like, hey, when you were super into Dune in 1993, like, did you play this game? But it's so interesting.
I now know there's now like a Dune, what's it called? 4X or what, like this. Yeah. There's like a new one like that. And it is like, I think about like if I'm thinking about it in comparison to like Star Wars and like the types of video games that got made based on that, which is a wide variety of things, but you know, it's like
also some real-time strategy games.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. I was thinking like a real-time strategy game or like a Civ type strategy game is like, I don't know a ton about Dune, but it feels like that's the type of game like it would make sense to adapt Dune into like that sort of things, because it feels like the more like you know, like the more hardcore like audience compared to like if you're thinking about sci-fi, like Star Wars to Dune, like I feel like let's get like a really high strategy game adaptation of this. You know, this is the real stuff here.
This is a smart people game for a smart people property.
Well, Dune 2 is interesting too because it's like it's treated like it's like a sequel to the movie, right? Like, obviously, you know, the movie's based on the book, but it has to be to capitalize at least on the movie, like
the David Lynch film.
Right.
No, the most widely read, talked about, and cherished masterpiece of a generation comes to the screen. Dino De Laurentiis presents Dune.
I see two great houses feuding.
We will kill until no Harkonnen breathes Arakeen air.
I will kill him! Dune, rated PG-13. Now at select theaters. Check newspapers for locations and showtimes.
It's so wild to me that like Dune is like this kind of mainstream thing now.
Especially now, yeah.
Because like it was always like the shit's too nerdy for Trekkies kind of thing.
Right.
Back in the day. Like it was like I always felt like Dune was like super unapproachable. Like I didn't read the first book until actually the first new movie came out.
It's Dune chat now. McKenna, you read Dune, right?
Yeah.
Okay. She liked it.
It was fine.
I've only seen the David Lynch movie, so that's where I'm at. I haven't even seen the new one.
I did listen to an audiobook, so part of me is like, you know, like sometimes I listen to an audiobook and like there's certain voices that they do and I won't like the voice, so like it'll make me annoyed with the character. I'm like, maybe I should actually read it.
Okay, so you're at that stage with it.
Yeah.
Maybe you should read it. Okay, well, look, we can't spend the whole podcast talking about Dune. But in relation to Dune, I will say I didn't play that game, but I did at some point on one of those personal computers that I had. We acquired a Command and Conquer game. It might have been Red Alert. Like,
that's a good one.
It's not one that I played as much as in terms of RTS. Age of Empires was really my series that I played. I played Age of Empires and Age of Empires 2 a ton. So I vaguely remember playing Command and Conquer, like, and I definitely spent some time with it, but like not to the point where I could remember which one it was. I think it's that one. So, but yeah, that is, you know, that's kind of what grew out of Dune 2 was like that was their. Well, maybe we'll talk about those at some point too on the show. I feel like that could be fun.
Well, I mean,
to
you have to because there's an N64 game.
Right. Okay. That's okay. So we will. We can't avoid it. But McKenna, I guess this might just lead into the game itself because I think your history with real-time strategy is basically Warcraft.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else.
I thought it was interesting when we were preparing to be guests on the 3DO Experience podcast, and we were playing some Lemmings, another game that I'm nostalgic about, and reading about Lemmings, they had mentioned that was partially an inspiration for Blizzard to make a game they had previously re-released called The Lost Vikings.
Lost Vikings, yep.
And then I think it was just somewhere like they had accredited Lemmings to being like sort of, you know, that sort of like commanding people, and while a bunch of people are running around, being like an inspiration for Warcraft. So I never thought about it like that, but it sort of makes sense. So maybe that's some of your experience.
I did kind of feel that when we were playing Lemmings. I was like, something about this reminds me of Warcraft. And
okay,
then I got Craftlings, which just released this year, which is like Lemmings inspired, but it also has like some combat elements. And I was like, wow, this feels like right in the middle of Lemmings and Warcraft.
Which is more we'll talk about it with Warcraft, but I feel like that's more what you want to do in these type of games, right? Is like the combat you don't want as much, whereas this is Warcraft. So,
yeah.
The orcs are approaching. Hey everyone, my name's Darren Hupke. I'm a writer, publisher, and podcaster. My podcast is called Pixels and Polygons. Each week I sit down with a guest and ask one simple video game question. It's a random topic each week and it leads to a fun conversation. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform every Friday, and you can read more about it at pixelsandpolygons.net.
Warcraft Orcs and Humans is a real-time strategy game in which you'll guide either the orcs or humans to victory by building up a town, an army, and destroying the enemy. Peasants or peons will gather lumber and gold, as well as construct buildings to build and maintain an army. Your army will consist of a variety of units, from basic soldiers and ranged archers to magic users. You can play through the campaign, a series of missions which will each start in a different place with different units and objectives, or you can play against another player or the computer, with the goal of destroying the enemy. Choose the orcs or humans, and strategize your way to victory in Warcraft.
Orcs and Humans.
Yes.
Developed by Blizzard Entertainment and published by Interplay. And this is the first Warcraft game in the whole Warcraft franchise. And so Blizzard, I also feel like this is the game that kind of really put them on the map. Mm-hmm. And so we definitely have to talk about that. Like we mentioned, Lost Vikings, they had released a few games before that, and had worked with other game companies doing like licensed games and stuff like that. They did was it The Death and Return of Superman was one of their games?
That was one of their 2 DC games. That was actually Death and Return of Superman, I believe, is the first game that has the Blizzard name on it. Because they were Synapse and Silicone before, and that's when they released like RPM Racing, which I don't remember what the acronym is, but it's really funny, which was a SNES game. I think it was a launch title in North America. And then Lost Vikings, and then Rock and Roll Racing, which I think was like maybe their first, like Lost Vikings and Rock and Roll Racing, I think were like moderate hits on console.
Yeah. It sounds like those. In fact, I remember looking back on the footage, I was like, I can't remember if it was RPM or Rock and Roll, but I definitely had played one of those games. Because I was thinking about it when we were way back when we talked about RC Pro-Am, where I was like, I've definitely played a game like this. Yeah. And then I remembered like a few years ago playing that on a friend's like hacked SNES Classic and being like, this game is sweet. So it was cool to kind of make that connection, I guess. But Ryan, I know you're like, now obviously it's such a big thing, and they're part of this big horrible amalgamation of awful businesses and whatnot. But at this point in time, this was the start of like probably when they were really cooking. All leading all the way up into the massive, success of World of Warcraft and what came after that. But what's your kind of history with Blizzard? And I feel like you're like the guy I know who's like the most into a lot of their games. So
I am. Yeah, I like if on the video, like I have a World of Warcraft poster behind me in my office. I have a Diablo statue and poster behind me. I love this company a lot. All things considered.
Right.
But okay, first of all, the most important thing is RPM Racing stands for Radical Psycho Machine Racing.
It didn't need that, but I like they went the extra mile.
And like Blizzard has always kind of had this like based on the interests of their like the founders and the people who work there, they've always had this like kind of metal vibe and like a love of like hard rock and metal, which kind of permeates in a lot of their early stuff. It's super apparent in Rock and Roll Racing, and you kind of get it. Like Diablo is, was one of the most metal games of its time, with like just pentagrams everywhere and fire and Satan and stuff. It's very like 80s Slayer vibes. But yeah, like I got into Blizzard with Warcraft 2. And then, man, I think from like 95 to 2005, like they were maybe my favorite game developer during that period, like because you just think of like what they released during that time. You know, Warcraft 2, Diablo, StarCraft, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, and then leading into World of Warcraft. Like, I mean, they like everything hit during that time, and like they were like a perfect developer to me at that time. And then, but turns out I didn't know about all the horrible shit that was happening at the company during that time. It was like the usual sort of crunch that was just commonplace there, but there are also just like some really awful people in power, just cruel people, sex pests, like a lot of just really bad people there during that time. So it's kind of tainted that era to me. And this is all, I just like learned so much of this. There's a book called Play Nice by Jason Schreier. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
And it really kind of it chronicles the history of Blizzard. It's a fascinating read, regardless of like your interest level in the company. But
I have to check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really quick read too, but it's kind of a bummer that all that kind of went down, and then then they got eventually absorbed into Activision, and Activision started doing their Bobby Kotick stuff of again, like overworking people, making them hit insane deadlines, just churning out like WoW expansions and stuff with like they were doing Call of Duty games and stuff. And then they got bought by Microsoft, which is also problematic. Also a company that like I have a lot of fondness for. Like basically all my favorite video game developers and properties are under this Microsoft umbrella now, from like id to Obsidian to Blizzard. And
that was something we encountered with Quake as well,
and Microsoft also, I mean, they've always done like horrible shit, but they've also like released cool stuff like Windows XP and the Xbox 360, and then but then actually under Microsoft and not being under Activision, from what I understand and just from what I know, and like Blizzard people I follow on social media and stuff, it seems like the culture has improved a lot there. And I would also say they've been releasing some of their best stuff in years, just like quality wise. They just did this expansion to Diablo 2, the game from the year 2000, which is just awesome, and it's got me like playing Diablo 2 like a ton again. It's really cool, and like World of Warcraft is in the best place it's been in like a decade. There is like a comeback, I feel. I mean, people will argue, and I also think like Overwatch is awesome. I know people have lots of opinions about that, but they, recently dropped the 2, which was like this super predatory, like profit machine version of the game. They're kind of back to like a less predatory, but still kind of profit-y corporate version of the game, but it's like less bad now, less egregious, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I like they're a company like I'm still always rooting for, and I still like them a lot, but also it's kind of as you get with like Nintendo or Sony or anyone, Sega, like they're going to there's like some dark shit in there too with like any of these like long running companies.
So I was maybe letting early Blizzard off too easy, because I was like, well, they were like this great company and now they're bad. Well, there's but it sounds like
no, there was like been some horror like worse from what I understand. Okay. Yeah, like worse shit happening there than even happened under Activision, and it definitely under Microsoft. So no heroes.
Other than
corporations are not your friends.
Lothar or something.
Yeah, Lothar.
Well,
somewhat problematic.
Okay, yeah. Well, you have more context.
And Lothar. Yeah.
We'll talk about that, but I think you have more context for these characters. For me, I don't think there was. I don't know. It was weird. I guess maybe I played Wolfenstein. I played Command and Conquer. Like I guess maybe like I feel like my dad's not a gamer, but I feel like maybe military things, like he would always play like kind of like on the NES, he liked like more military themed games. So maybe that was cool. I don't think I would have been allowed to have a game called Diablo. So I remember seeing it at friends and being like, whoa, this looks so crazy, but I've never played it. Warcraft, I realized playing this, like I did have a memory of playing this at a friend. Like I was recognizing specific things. So that was kind of fun, but I've definitely, not encountered it too much in my life. So it was fun to like kind of immerse myself in the game and actually kind of get to, go back and see how it was. McKenna, we teased it, but you have played some Warcraft games before?
Yeah. I definitely had Warcraft 3, and I think I had one or two. I think it might have been two. Those were just games we had. I don't remember getting them. I just remember having them.
Yeah, my guess was it's probably a brother game, big brother game.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I don't know why I decided I wanted to try them out, but I did.
Hey, if it's there, I played a lot of like
and
weird
I think
games.
I liked them, but I think they were pretty difficult for me.
They're easier than this one, I'll say.
Yeah. I mean, this one, I've just been playing the custom game. I'm like, oh my God, this is hard.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that. I feel like I feel like this game, just in general, the like play the fun factor of the game, like it has a very I started to kind of, when I started playing, I had sort of Age of Empires brain a little bit, where it was like specific, like I'm not really good at those games. I play them in a dumb way that no one.
You kind of are, though.
Oh, okay. Well,
we've had a lot of conversations, and don't undersell yourself. You're pretty good at RTS games.
I'm usually playing like Age of Empires. I can. They're kind of hard, I guess. I can beat them on like the easy to know, whatever like the standard difficulty is. But like if you put me against someone who like really plays them, it's like it's done in a minute. But I guess that's a whole other story. But this one, it did feel like I loved playing this game. I will say, but it does feel like it has a very particular like way of playing it compared to other like RTS games I've played, where especially when you get into having more like civilizations or clans or whatever you want to call them, whereas this, you've got orcs and humans, and at least in the like missions the game presents you, there's not a lot of room for self-expression, let's say. You kind of got to stick to the script, and I feel like that was that something you were encountering?
Yeah, I think so, because I just like want to build the next thing and like slowly upgrade, get all the different troops, and then I'd be like,
yeah, exactly.
All right, this is not a good idea. I need to get lots of money. I need to get lots of archers.
Yep, archers are the way, or spear throwers. That's the way to go. Yeah, yeah. I feel like I've played like Age of Empires was a game I would play where I would just, if I was playing on easy or whatever, I could just build everything and nothing mattered, and that's when I would kick it up to normal or whatever it is. That's where I'm like, okay, I don't want to waste my time building this. And I feel like this game is like all that, where it's like there's certain buildings where I'm like, I will only build this when I have like 12 archers or whatever, and like I'm super covered. I find it like very hard. How do you like? What did you think about playing it, Ryan?
Man, this game kicked my ass. And even being like, having decades of history with this series, RTS games in general, Blizzard RTSs in general. First, like, it starts off and it's so simple in the first missions and like
build some farms.
So slow, and you're like, oh my god, this is like, it's like Blizzard introducing you to the genre.
Yeah.
And then you like 5 missions into the campaign, and then it is just relentless. Like you have the opposing army attacking your base within the first like 45 seconds. And like if you haven't already like built up stuff, like you're like all your peons are dead and you're you're restarting it.
I would always find where the mine is and then restart immediately.
Yep. I did the same thing.
You don't want to waste time looking for the gold, No,
I would always just, when I'd start a map, I would send dudes in every direction as far as they could go, and I would find out where the enemy base was, where the mines were, because you can't just rely on one. You're gonna have to go to. You're gonna run that out real quick. Yeah, and then I would restart once I basically revealed most of the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as I know like where the bridges are and but you don't want to get too close to them, because that's a whole other and very specific things. Like if you start to aggro the enemies, like they're gonna come attack whoever you have alive, and if they
will follow you across to the ends of the earth.
Oh yeah, that's pretty scary. But I did it was like, for me, I think it was like mission, it was like 6 or something. It was like halfway through. There's like 12 campaigns for Orcs or Humans. I think I was on the 6th one, and we were kind of playing together. You were like, at that point you were watching me play, and I spent hours and hours playing this mission. But there was something about, like, it did get its hooks into me where I was like, I was like, oh, but I like want, because it's so familiar to games I've played and loved, and I'm like, and I love the vibe, and I'm like, oh, I just want to overcome this. And I think I played it again the next day and still struggled, and then finally, I think I just read somewhere someone was just like, oh yeah, like archers are awesome or spear throwers are awesome, and I was like, okay, and I figured that out, and then from there on out, I was able to beat the rest of the orc ones. They would always throw in something like new that would totally like destroy you, and I'd have to like figure out like the strategy for beating, whether it's like the catapults or elementals is another thing they throw at you. I eventually would have to like figure out like, a new strategy, so it did kind of change. The gameplay did develop and change all the way up to the final mission, but it came at a great cost. I definitely spent a lot of time on it, but it was addictive. I couldn't stop playing it. God. So I loved it, even though it was maybe a little too brutal. Yeah.
It's funny because I started a replay of StarCraft last year. I think it was like over winter break or something. And I was like, I want to get back into StarCraft, and like I know people like have their opinions about like Blizzard storytelling, but like I've always been like a big Blizzard lore guy for like all their games. I like the novels and the comics and stuff. But yeah, I was like, man, I'm just like in the mood for the vibe of StarCraft, and like, I mean, we played a bit of Age of Empires. We were talking about, maybe doing an episode about it like a year ago, and I played that.
We will still someday.
someday.
I swear to God. At least I'm here. I'll make it happen.
Yeah. And so like that was kind of the first RTS I'd played in a while, and then I was like, man. And so I went and played through the Terran campaign in StarCraft, and like there's a lot of like quality of life improvements going from Warcraft 1 to StarCraft. Like there was a lot of iteration in Warcraft 2 and the expansion Beyond the Dark Portal, and they kind of, were really figuring it out, and like Westwood was doing amazing stuff with Command and Conquer and like making the games more accessible. And by the time they got to StarCraft, it was like StarCraft is probably the RTS formula perfected. There's other games I know people love that I haven't actually played, stuff like Company of Heroes and the Warhammer games. But from what I've played, I feel like StarCraft is like the most like pure distilled form of the genre,
and that's like the most popular one, wouldn't you say, of all of them? Like even still, or
definitely in Korea.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and we'll talk about StarCraft someday.
Well, yeah, you will, because
we have
the N64 version.
We can't avoid it.
You're on the hook. But yeah, like by the time I got to the end of StarCraft, like the Terran campaign, I felt like I had like learned so much about myself, and that like my approach to these games is like I'm strategic until it starts getting overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And then I cannot function under pressure in an RTS. Like
Same.
I don't know what to do. I just like panic and throw all my troops at like an impossible situation. Everyone dies. I would be a horrible military commander. I do not know when to retreat, when to like people who are like good at these games are like breaking down like I need exactly this number of this unit and then this number of this unit to counter this other one. And
no.
Like by the time I hit the end of StarCraft, I was just building an armada of battle cruisers and sending like 12 battle cruisers to just like destroy targets. Like that was like my strategy, because I had gotten so overwhelmed with like the micromanagement part of it. And that's kind of where I ended up with Warcraft, because like you and I were like sending messages about it, and like you got stuck on this mission and I was like stuck on the mission before that, and then you were like, dude, spear throwers. So I like in the mission I was in, I think it was like 5, I was like, okay, and just did a bunch of like spear throwers and just ended up like wrecking the dudes, because like as they would be like charging towards you, like the grunts, and like you would just be taking them all out before they even get to you. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is this is like a top-down shooter almost, because I'm just directing these dudes and they're just like blowing guys up like Galaga or something. And and so then I just like use that strategy pretty much to the end of the game. And like I think like catapults were kind of like a wrench in it for me.
And they're good. They're very useful.
And so then my strategy for that was just like sending like 16 dudes in all different directions to like swarm the catapult, and then they'd only like kill 2 dudes instead of everyone, and like just keeping them not bunched up. But even then it was like so stressful, like trying to like micromanage, because there's so many things that like this game just doesn't do that you expect. From like Warcraft 3, like you can't put a marker for where to send units. You have to move every unit by hand, and there's no like lazy peon button when like one of your workers isn't doing anything and you're in like the idle button, and so you're always like searching for like, oh, where did the wood run out, or where did this guy get chased off by an enemy or something.
There's a lot of micromanagement. Yeah, in like
brutal
things you can automate more easier in later games, which I like some element of like you got to keep track on this world, but yeah, there's maybe a little too much. Was there stuff like because you know, I don't know if you have many memories of Warcraft and like what would be missing here, but did you feel like when you're playing like, oh, I wish I could do X, Y, or Z?
I guess like definitely with the peasants or peons, when somebody stops doing something, I'd be like, oh, I wish I just at least had like a little alert, like, oh, there's some guy who's just standing around.
That's a thing that comes in other games, yeah, for sure.
I feel like that was the main thing. Or like it just like, you know, you can select 4 guys.
Only 4 at once, yeah.
Which, like, you know, sometimes I've built up an army of like 12 or whatever. It's like, all right, I gotta select these 4, get them to go.
I got good at
4.
strategically moving units of 4, though, I will say.
I'd be like, all right, if I have, you know, a regular, you know, like a foot soldier, I'd be like, okay, he needs to be in front of the archers. I can't let the archers go out in front of him. I'm gonna be like, all right, guys, stop, slow down.
You really, you have to keep an eye on on your armies.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and you can't leave them to battle on their own.
The footmen, and I'm like, hey, the archers are fighting a guy right now. Like, maybe you should be doing that.
You had to like keep close watch on them, especially like later when they introduce like the catapults, and you could not be looking, and before you know it, a catapult killed your whole army. I learned to live without certain things, but like I am used to like some stuff like clicking and then dragging, you know, the box, you know, always having to like go hit control to like select a bunch of units and
assign them to the number on the keyboard.
Also like being able to like right click, you know, just right click to tell them to move. Like I got good at using, like in a lot of games, like Age of Empires, I guess is my go-to. Like a lot of hotkeys I don't really engage all that much with, but this one I was learning all the hotkeys because I was trying to expedite whatever that I could. So I'm always hitting M for move or H for harvest. There's some things I didn't take advantage of, but a lot of them I got used to. I don't know, like did you get not much of that? They do have it all on screen. A nice little artwork, you know. It's nice to click on it.
I do like clicking on the things.
My number 1 hotkey I was always using. I don't know if it's the same for you, but the plus and minus key
to use those
to slow and speed the game up.
So I think we need to address something here.
Okay.
You all played the original version of the game.
Yes. Yep. Because I wanted to see, like, I'm doing this partially. We're doing it sort of a historical study on the game. So I know there's a remaster and everything, but I was like, I want to see, like, if the game is bad. If the game is bad and I hate it, that's fine too. You know what I mean? I want to know like what the real experience is like. But so that's what I had going. I don't know what.
So I have my CD-ROM copy of the original Warcraft here. I did play some of the original one, but I mostly played the remaster. So some of these things are kind of like moot points with the remaster.
I'm sure. There's obvious stuff.
You can select, I think, 16 or 20 dudes at a time.
Ooh, okay. That's nice.
You can right click to do everything, to like, you just click on a peon, right click the mine, and he just goes there. And yeah, so like I think those things are actually really nice, but still I was like feeling the the lack of some of those other like quality of life things that we mentioned. Like the remaster makes it easier. It's also a lot faster by default.
Oh, okay. Can you change the speed?
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's just like it's just a slider. I mean, it's actually like in the original. It's also like in the menu to speed it up. But
I was like, I was often like had both fingers on like throughout the whole game, like constantly like altering the speed. Like that became like a very crucial part of the strategy.
That's interesting.
There's times where it's like there's usually something you want to be doing. Like, so it's usually worth it to play. Things move crazy slow, like to a hilarious degree, but it allows you to like set up stuff. But there are times where it's like, okay, I just need this guy to spawn or finish creating, so I'll speed it up. But as soon as I see a red dot on my map, I'm slowing it down and I'm going over and seeing who's coming. Oh, is it a catapult? Like, okay, I need to send someone, like I'll send like a melee unit like at him right now because the catapult, can't get a melee unit when up close, or, like I'm, because then it becomes like the combat, I was able to like get more strategic. I often did devolve into just throwing everything at the wall, like you mentioned, but I'm usually trying to, if someone's coming near, like I'm getting ready because like every second like counts in battle.
Yeah.
Like you really need to keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I was playing at max speed the entire time.
I think that makes it harder too. I think it made it easier for you as well, McKenna.
Yeah, I definitely slowed it down every time I saw an enemy approaching.
Yeah.
I even like this morning, I played it all at the lowest speed, and I was playing Animal Crossing at the same time. You were saying the other day, you were like, oh, it's almost like an idle game at this speed. And I was like, yeah, I can just sit here, like wait for things to be done and play another game.
Because I do think there's like an inherent like wait time put into this game. I don't think it's intentional. Maybe it is, but like I think I think this ties into the fact that there's only 2 resources really. I mean, you build farms, but like otherwise it's wood and gold. Whereas like I'm thinking of like when I started playing, I would play like Age of Empires mode where I need to get a bunch of villagers right away so I can get them on food so I can gold and like start making stuff quickly. Whereas in this, it's like most scenarios, I would have 3 or 4 peons or peasants or what have you, and instead focus right away on trying to get spearmen and getting gold to upgrade their spears. And because in like compared to something like AoE, you purchase or you build villagers with food, a separate resource. In this, you build peons with gold, which is what you need for everything else. So like you can build you can build more to like speed up production, but oftentimes it just hampered your ability to build anything else. So for me, it was a lot of like, just get the army I need, let my guys do their job for like 30 seconds or whatever, because they were pretty productive on harvesting gold. I was like, okay, I don't need more than 3 or 4. And I was able to beat the game. Like, I probably had 4 peons in the last mission of the game. So,
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Cause like we were saying earlier, there are missions where you are going to be attacked, especially at max speed. You are going to be attacked within a minute.
Yeah.
And you start with, 5 grunts or like 3 grunts and 2 spearmen or whatever. And they may all be dead in the first minute. So if you're not already building more, then the army is just going to like ravage your space.
Yeah. Yep. So it's like the time, every moment matters for sure. So I was very often slowing it down, but again, like I was spending, that was making, it's doubling basically the time I'm spending on any given mission. But I don't know if this is like a, people talk about like a podcast game, and usually they're referring to like a grindy whatever game, or you could throw on a Assassin's
World
Creed
of Warcraft.
Yeah, this did kind of feel like that in a way. Like we were watching AEW Collision or whatever. We had that on one monitor here, and then on the other monitor, I was just playing Warcraft, and we were having. You made like some nice drink that I can't remember what it was. Maybe just a maybe just had some coffee or something, and
Yeah.
we were chilling. And we don't normally do that because sitting here in this room isn't like the most comfortable hangout spot, you know. But I don't know. It was kind of fun. It was like a change of pace, and it was fun.
Yeah, I brought my comfier chair in.
Yeah, your big ball chair that you sit on. Yeah. So yeah, definitely slow down time is a thing I would recommend to most people.
Good to know.
Also, in the end, the final mission, they throw these elementals at you that will, like the catapult, they're like the next thing that'll destroy you. And so you need to summon your own. With the orcs, you can summon, it's like a demon or whatever, and it's like a big devil with a sword.
Yeah.
You need that guy. Basically, with that, I made like 4 necromancers or whatever, and then just like had them keep producing those guys, and I'd be like, all right, go fuck up the town, and maybe I'll send you some support, but you guys got this. And they were pretty effective. Like, they would kill all the armies in one hit and the peons. I'm like, all right, you guys are wrecking havoc, and I like that. So those are my strategic tips: spearmen, catapults, demon.
Yeah, which also is that kind of like Blizzard metal vibe that I mentioned earlier.
I feel like that, like, it was in both that and like Doom has that sort of thing too. And I feel like I love the vibes of these games, but it's like, and I like metal all right, but it's like I don't like really love that brand of metal necessarily. But I love these games that are influenced by it. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Very, very like 80s thrash. I mean, yeah, like with Doom, it's like literally the soundtrack is like MIDI versions of like 80s thrash songs. But
oh yeah, we have to talk about some of the vibes aspects of this game. It has this very like simple cheesiness to it, like especially in like the vibes of the game. I guess McKenna, maybe you could, how did that strike you? Sort of like the the music and the art and the voice acting that was going on. Like, yeah, what did you think of the vibe of the game?
I enjoyed the vibe a lot. Like with the combat, it might not like seem like my kind of game, but I think the combat is a very important reason as to why I enjoy it.
Okay.
I think it helps contribute to the vibe. You've got kind of almost like waves going on where you're like building stuff, getting ready, and then enemies will come.
Yeah, you're like preparing, for the attack.
Yeah, which is something I've realized I like in a lot of games, like just having like a calmer section and then a more stressful section. Like,
okay, yeah,
it feels cozier to me than a game that's like totally stress free.
Sure, okay, because you have it's like Minecraft. It's like, oh.
Yeah, that's what like Minecraft. I don't really like creative mode where there's no enemies. I'm like, there's
same,
no.
Yeah, I want that sense of danger.
I need the sense of danger so I can like craft this like safe place, to fight everything off.
It's like your world you're in.
Yeah.
Okay, so that sold you on the Warcraft world.
Yeah, and like the characters, they all look identical, and so they don't really have their own identities, but they all have like a voice. You click on them,
they talk to you.
Yeah,
they have their own little art too. That's very charming.
At some point I like clicked on a guy a second time and he said something different, so I just started clicking on him a bunch of times to see,
and it gets weird
to see how many different things they would say. And the last thing, this was the human who's like, why do you keep touching me? You were in the room when that happened, and we both just started laughing. I was like, wow, this is very funny. Just a little fourth wall breaking.
Yeah, Yeah, like the games, like while I feel like, you know, they took the manual writing seriously. Like you read that and you're like, this is like serious, I guess you could say. But then yeah, the game has like a silly tone to it in a way. Like like it's embracing the fact that it's like they were probably limited in their budget, but with, you know, the voice acting and stuff like that. So it's like, oh yeah, let's like, they kind of ham it up a little bit, like the, you know, the guy who's reading the epic backstory is talking like this, you know, and like doing like a pseudo, I don't know what the accent he's doing, but like a fantasy accent. And
somewhat European,
yeah,
but
Old English.
They have to sell a lot because like the story, the cutscenes are just, for if you're orc or human, like a static image, which is a sick static image of
it's so good.
Your dudes hanging out and then just scrolling Star Wars text. So they do like a, you know, silly voice over it. So I feel like the voice it does a lot of work as well as the artwork. I feel like the artwork in this game is cool.
One guy like constantly chewing on something in the image.
Yeah, you got like a
cutscene image,
a cool wizard, and I'm always like, you know, like I'm imagining like, who are these characters? You know what I mean? Like it just adds like a little bit of personality to, you know, the game that doesn't really have a lot of. There's a couple characters you encounter in the missions, but overall, not a lot of characters, but individual units with personality. And that goes along with the music too. I think the music is
we got to talk about the music.
Yeah, please. Right, I'll let you go and say your thoughts on the music.
No, it's just like this great like mid-90s PC sound that I'm not a musician and I don't create music and I don't understand music very well, but like to me this is why you bought an additional Sound Blaster sound card for your PC, and you're not just playing it out of the MIDI speakers, because it is like I guess it's like FM synth, maybe.
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah, I don't know
like,
that stuff.
It just, I don't know. It's like kind of has like that like farty Sega Genesis sound that I like actually find really endearing and I love a lot, but it's like so different on PC. But like on the remastered version, you can choose the visual style and the soundtrack. So you can choose to have like redrawn, kind of chintzy looking sprites that look a little bit like Flash animation, or you can just have like the.
I didn't like the art update. I didn't like the look of it.
It's not. I don't know. It's not exactly my thing, but also you kind of get used to it after a while. I wish they would have made it like more in line with. Like I think Warcraft 3 still looks really good, and those are like polygonal characters. They're like really basic. Like it's very like N64-ish look.
Sweet.
But yeah, but you can switch through that, or you can just have like the old like pixelated dudes, which look great on a CRT monitor, look not so good on LCD monitor, but still like pretty endearing.
Yeah, it looked all right. Like I definitely, you could definitely tell like, oh, this would probably hit harder on like an old CRT monitor, but I was just playing on a regular computer and I feel like the sprites still have a lot of charm and everything. But yeah, maybe not the optimal setting.
But you can also switch between the soundtracks, so you can have like a remastered like orchestrated version of the soundtrack, or you can have the old PC version, and it was actually really cool switching between them, because I started with just like the classic version, because it was like that's the right way to listen to this, and then it is a lot of the same tracks over and over again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Especially once you are spending an hour and a half, 2 hours on a single mission. It was about halfway through the campaign that I started kind of going back and forth between them. And I actually think the remastered arrangements are really good and sound pretty awesome. So yeah, I think that's like another kind of cool thing about the remaster. I'm sure you can like go to YouTube or something and listen to them. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
I did spend a long time listening to the music, so I'm not going to say like when I say this, I want people know like I like the music, but yeah, when we did stuff like watch wrestling, on the same computer, I did mute the music and kept the I did want some I do play off some of the audio cues, so I kept those on but kind of low. That was funny because we were watching we also had the press conference from AEW Dynasty on where they're asking questions to the wrestlers and to Tony Khan, and McKenna kept getting a rise out of like they'd ask a question and
yeah, I just hear one of the guys say yes.
Yes, my lord. They got Warcraft Knight at the press conference, but no, I mean, do you have any thoughts on like the music or I guess you talked about the voice acting, but any other thoughts on like the vibe or anything like that?
It's I think it's just kind of a nice like chill out in a way. Like it's not too intense. Except for when you have a million guys coming at you and catapults, but like the actual vibe feels a little like laid back, so I don't feel stressed most of the time playing it.
It's kind of impressive actually. Like we talked about this a little bit when we guested on the podcast talking about Lemmings, and it's only a few years removed from that, but still like feels leaps and bounds in terms of the aesthetic. But there is something about like that particular like PC aesthetic. Like I think even going back to it still, like there was definitely a lot of stuff where you could tell like they were playing within certain limitations, but I can see why this, like, even though this isn't like the biggest Warcraft game, I could see why this stood out and why it was popular and why they made more, like, just from the look of it. Some of those images still kind of stuck with me that I remembered from seeing it briefly as a kid. So, and how about that map? The map when you go between levels and there's like a 3D map and it kind of fills in.
Oh yeah.
As you go through the quests. That was pretty sick too.
You're like going through different directions in the orc and human campaign.
Oh yeah, like the humans you start over kind of near Stormwind Castle or whatever, and the orcs you start towards the whatever horrible swamp they all live in.
Swamp of Sorrows.
Swamp of Sorrows, yeah. The missions, you play out the story in the game, but it's really just, an excuse to like, okay, we're just going to keep adding something new in. Like, we're basically teaching you how to play this game so you can go and play, infinitely, from like building farms all the way up to, taking on like 3 massive towns and elementals and stuff. But they did a good job of like inserting some variety into the missions. Like there's some where you're just going on a little underground mission with an army. You're not doing the town building stuff. Or there's one where you start and your town's under attack right away and you have to fend off people attacking it. Or one where you have to rescue some hero figure, some like special orc or human. And so I thought that was pretty good. I thought like the story, I guess you could say, of the game, I felt like there was like in the game itself, it's pretty light on story, but it is the story of you becoming like becoming like the most powerful warlord or whatever. So it tied in. It felt like looking in on like a micro level, like at like a series of battles in a war, as opposed to like having a story where it's like characters like and doing a bunch of like character development or anything like that. But I don't know, what did you think, McKenna, of like the missions and the story of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I like that you can play both. You have 2 campaigns that you play, and some of them are almost identical, but they have, you know, a little bit of a different flavor.
Definitely, yeah.
We looked at the manual.
Holy cow.
We read the stories for both, and I was like, oh my god, there's a lot going on here.
I take it back, because while we were playing, I was like, yeah, there's not really a story in this game. You know, I'm sure this is something like, and I know for a fact they expand upon it more, but I was like, oh, there's like a light story about like, oh, you're just going on all these campaigns, these skirmishes or whatever. But then, yeah, you busted open that manual, and it was like, I was like, this is one of the densest game manual stories that we've had for any game.
Yeah, there's half the manual is a human manual and half is an orc cool. manual. Yeah. They have a story going on in each. The orcs come into the world through some rift accidentally open. I was just like, wow. I did not imagine that they came up with all this.
I did think, like, before playing it, like, oh, there's going to be two sides to this. So like maybe the orcs, like when you read the human side, it kind of like you don't really get much detail on the orcs themselves. So I was like, oh, like maybe when we go to the orc side, like it'll be more sympathetic or whatever. But it's not really. No. They're like, no, they just
want to kill everything.
Now I'm pretty sure I know they make the orcs more nuanced than like the later Warcraft games. And I mean, Ryan, I'm sure you can tell, like, I wonder what playing this game is like now, having all of the lore of like the Warcraft series in this game, where it's like a series of battles, you know, and like some weird backstory.
Okay. Yeah. I guess this will be my sicko corner.
Yeah.
Because, okay. So, obviously, like, I don't know if Blizzard intended this to be like a franchise or whatever, but I think something that's like really kind of part of all of Blizzard's games, and I think it's why people sometimes take issue with their storytelling, is like their storytelling in games is typically fairly simple. Mm-hmm. And then outside of the games, it is like the most like insane dense shit ever, where they just have like centuries worth of lore out there. So I have this book right here. It is a big guy. It's called Chronicles of War, and what it is this is a compilation of 4 Warcraft novels before World of Warcraft. And then when World of Warcraft came out, like people actually, I think Warcraft 3 is, I think, where they really started trying to like tell a better story in game. And I think they mostly succeeded. But a lot of the stories were kind of in novels prior to that. And then like when World of Warcraft became like the biggest shit in PC gaming for, its heyday, people were actually like really interested in, the story and the lore. And there's lots of just like compelling stuff in WoW that people were like, oh, where did I know there's these games, but not everyone who plays WoW or played WoW is necessarily interested in, real-time strategy games.
Right.
And so, yeah, they kind of like repackage some of these novels, but 2 of the novels here, Rise of the Horde and The Last Guardian, they essentially tell the story of Warcraft 1. And obviously there's these 2 different stories, like orcs and humans, like different campaigns, but the orc campaign is the one that's canon.
Good to know. Good to know.
So that is, yeah. So it's really funny because I played through the orc campaign, and then I was like, I started the human one, and I was like, this isn't even canon. I don't even want to play this. But Yeah. Also, I'm just like in general not a fan of orcs or the humans in the Warcraft world.
Oh, okay.
In general, like they just aren't terribly interesting to me. But yeah, like this game essentially tells the story of the orcs fleeing their home planet of Draenor, which becomes Outland in like uh, eventually after Beyond the Dark Portal and stuff, because like their planet was dying, so they like came through here, but they're like the super like warrior race, and so they got to Azeroth where the humans and the elves and the dwarves were, and they were like, cool, I guess we'll take this over. We'll live here now. But then like a lot of this stuff has kind of been retconned in the canon, because like no one knew that Warcraft 1 was going to lead to World of Warcraft. So yeah, there's like then they kind of like introduce the like stuff like the Fel, which like the some orcs got tricked by, and that's what turned them. They used to be like brown skinned, and then they were turned green because of the Fel, because Gul'dan was injecting them, but
now,
he was
I remember this from the film. I've seen the film.
This is captured in the movie, which I also rewatched part of for this episode. But yeah, and like but then they, like you kind of said, they eventually, because like the orcs here are just like in this game are kind of just like pure evil conquerors.
Like they conquered their own world so much that it was like, okay, we have to open up. In a way, I was like, is this like a metaphor for like colonization?
For Americans?
Yeah. Like what we're doing now. Yeah.
Yeah, what we've done through.
Yeah, forever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not that. Like it does not read that way in any other way. Like they don't really sell that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's intentional, but
yeah, but I mean, it's an archetype, I guess.
But I understand. I understand why they would make the orc ending. It feels like there's more to it, especially the end of the human campaign. They're like, well, then we all pop the champagne and have a party. Whereas like the orcs, I feel like there's more there, and it seems like it. You said it's retcon, but for me, maybe it's because I haven't experienced that stuff. But I watched and read. I read some stuff and watched like a video of someone talking about the entire lore of Warcraft. But I went to the part where they talk about the game, which is such a blip. But I was like, I want to see what it's like when they talk about it with me having no context. Like I'm skipping the part about the gods creating the earth. I just want to see like how a Warcraft fan tries to contextualize and explain it in a vacuum. And I was like, okay, it seems like to me, it didn't read as like they retconned things, which maybe there's specific examples where they did, but it read to me more like, oh, they painted around the edges and like made it all
fleshed it out.
Yeah. So to their credit, I think they took something that was more rooted in like, hey, a simple game, a simple story that's just really more built around what type of levels can we actually design, and let's create situations based on that. And then, but then let's have someone write 4 pages of like deep fantasy lore in the manual. So I don't know. I appreciate them, even though I wouldn't say this story is like amazing. I think they did something with it. I mean, they created a whole deep history. So
yeah, and I think what's kind of funny about Warcraft is, okay, so there's 4 wars in Warcraft. There's this one, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, and then the World of Warcraft expansion, Battle for Azeroth.
Okay,
and so
I've
like
heard of that.
there's that, but really it's kind of like Star Wars is it. You look at it and you're like spaceships. It's sci-fi, but like actually the stories are like fantasy. It's really it's kind of like has more in common with Lord of the Rings than Star Trek. But then you look with Warcraft, it's kind of the opposite, where it's like, oh, this looks like fantasy, but it's actually become like very sci-fi.
Okay.
There is so much time travel and alternate dimensions and just like wild stuff with like gods and the soul of the world and the other worlds and all of this stuff now. And then they've like with Warcraft 3, they kind of, they added in Warcraft 2, they added in more races like the elves and stuff. But then in Warcraft 3, they actually kind of shifted it to have like a different enemy that was threatening Azeroth, the world. And so then you kind of started to get the first, bits of the Horde and the Alliance, because it's not by this point it's no longer just like orcs versus humans.
Oh, okay.
Simpler times, but now you have like the
all these
humans,
different races, and there's like dwarves and stuff going on too, right?
Yeah, and night elves, and then you have like the undead and the Tauren and stuff on the Horde side, and then so now it's like Alliance and Horde, and like they're kind of uniting to fight like a common threat. And then there's been like skirmishes and like distrust, but it like honestly like World of Warcraft now is a lot of like orcs and humans coexisting.
Hey, that's nice.
It is nice, and I think there's like a big kind of like there's a rift like in the community between this.
Oh,
like,
okay, I see.
Because like some people are like, well, that's what makes Warcraft is like these factions like fighting each other and like being at war, and then it's like, well, if it's everyone's just like friends, then that kind of takes away some of the identity of
I see.
Warcraft.
It's got war in the title,
Yeah, and then others are like, no, there should never be faction battles again. There should never be a fifth war or whatever.
Well,
so
I sort of, I don't know. I'm an outside observer, but I feel like it seems like just looking at this game, it's like the story is really just a construction to move you through the game, really. And it feels like, especially reading about how they imagined it, they were like, let's make Dune 2, but with Warhammer stuff, but it's our own thing. So I don't, it always, and then, they did put work into the story. I'm not going to say they didn't, but then it sounds like you're talking about all these different dimensions and things like that. It sounds like stuff you would do if you were making like a long running universe for a bunch of people to come and play around in. You would probably like branch out and do other things. And I feel like, I don't know, it makes sense to me that now like World of Warcraft, I don't think of like the people I know who really got into it not because it was a game where you go like specifically where you go battle stuff. Like I know like that's a big part of it, like raids and stuff like that. But a lot of people I know just got sucked into it because it was like a world you go like hang out and do stuff in, like a variety of things. I think that's why it probably had like a wider appeal. So, I mean, I guess, if your heart's on with the original Warcraft, I could see, you want more stuff like that, but I don't know. I understand. Yeah. I understand why it wouldn't be, especially just with the orc story. Like it makes them more interesting if they're not always just villains. And, we saw that in you mentioned Star Trek a bunch. Like it's like with the Klingons, like eventually, like what can we do stories with them where they're our allies? Like that's interesting too. So
World of Warcraft, when it first started in 2004, like it was still like heavily into this idea of like the Horde versus the Alliance, and
that's
like
a thing I remember, like not being someone who only like briefly like made a character. Like I remember everyone I know talking about like, are you Horde? It was like the Pokemon Go teams, of the time where it was like, what team are you on?
Yeah, and like you in the game, it was like reflected. Like if you went anywhere near like in if you were like a horde character, like a blood elf or something, and you went anywhere near like Stormwind, like the human capital, like you would just be killed on sight by NPCs. There was also like a
so
very
there's like
big
racism built into the game, kind of like dark elf racism.
bonus racism. It's a feature on the back of the box. Yeah.
I feel like McKenna, like I feel like World of Warcraft would be a game you would probably get into, but like you would not want to engage with the combat like at all. You'd want to do like whatever.
Yeah, probably not.
Though actually, speaking of the wider World of Warcraft and what you do, you asked me what was it yesterday. You were like,
yeah, I was like, what do you do in World of Warcraft?
Your question was, what do you do in World of Warcraft? And my answer was, it's like RuneScape.
just like it. What the game is now is so much different than what it was at Classic. Like, I mean, when the game started, I played with friends. Like, because everyone I knew was playing World of Warcraft. And first of all, it was amazing at the time to, like, having played the real-time strategy games, to, like, go into these buildings that are, like, and exist in these spaces that were, you know, previously just these, like, tiny quarter-sized things on a map. And that part of it is like really cool. But yeah, the original game was like it was like a dungeon crawler to some degree, and there was like, you know, like questing, and then eventually you built up to being like a no life raider, and
yeah,
and it became a job at that point. But what the game is now, like, I have like one friend from high school who still plays, that I don't even play with him, but like we occasionally chat.
Okay.
You know,
nice.
Just while we're doing other things. He's actually he's like still really hardcore, and he's doing raids and all this stuff that like I don't do. Yeah, like now it's basically just a single player game to me. You can do dungeons with like NPC characters. They recently added in player housing, and you build your house and you build the interiors and everything, and it's literally The Sims. My wife Lindsay started an account because she was watching me do like the player housing, and I've like tried to get her to play World of Warcraft for like a decade with me. But yeah, I got her to kind of try it out because of like to do the player housing, and there's a lot of stuff that's like she was a Final Fantasy 14 player, so she like knew how MMOs worked, and there's like FF14 is like it's a newer MMO, and you know, I think a lot of kind of going back to World of Warcraft, I think, is kind of like a step down in some ways, just because it's like a much older game, and still has some of those issues that are like inevitable because of its age. But yeah, like, so like what you do now in World of Warcraft is kind of just like whatever you want. There's nothing like end game is kind of whatever you want it to be, because you're you know, you're doing quests, you're doing dungeons, and you're earning like money and new armor and stuff, but you're also earning like a sick pot for your house. And so you can like just you can just like do like some quests and stuff just to like get these items that you go and like add to your house. Or like transmog is a huge thing, like getting different outfits for your character. And then if you really want to play like old school hardcore World of Warcraft, like with your subscription, you have access to Classic, which is just literally the old game.
Oh,
like,
I see.
You can still just play it like either how it was in 2004 or how it was in 2007, or yeah, there's like multiple versions of Classic. One last thing I have to say about this is the World of Warcraft population is aging. Like, people who have been playing since the beginning are now old, and they play with their kids, their grandkids, and they have also been consciously designing parts of the game to be less strenuous on your hands and fingers.
Oh, interesting.
Because people are getting old, and so they kind of keep that in mind, like the development team. So there's stuff like one button spell rotations now. There's a lot of variable difficulties. It's like, it can be a very casual game, but then it still also has like the high end rating and everything if you're into that. But
Warcraft is not a good game for that.
Funny.
You're constantly having a click and
no, and I think if they did make a fourth Warcraft game, it would be there would definitely be like a sliding scale of intensity and difficulty, which already started happening with Warcraft 3. I feel like Warcraft 3 is still like a very accessible game. It's funny too, because like so many of the, again, it's like, if you've played these games, I don't feel like these games are a prerequisite for playing World of Warcraft, but if you have played these games, like, eventually you get to, a point in World of Warcraft and it's like, oh, this next dungeon is the Dead Mines, which is like this location from Warcraft 1.
Right.
And there's like a ton of that stuff, like Blackrock Spire and just all these locations. Like it, and so like replaying this game, like, it's funny because like I didn't, remember, and my original experience with this was pretty limited with this first game, but yeah, it's like, it's cool how interconnected everything is.
I gotta go back and rewatch the movie, see what references I pick up on.
You will get a ton. Stormwind Castle is there, and Elwyn Forest.
Sit down for my third viewing of that movie would be something else, I think.
And
we watched it together, didn't we?
Yeah.
And what did you?
I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. Same. I remember kind of liking it, but not like thinking it was good. Just thinking like, I liked aspects about the movie.
That's the vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I made my wife go on opening weekend.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters as well, which I don't know why, but I went. I understand why you went, obviously, but
yeah. But I still like, it's okay, that movie is such a bummer to me because there's some stuff, like, even rewatching it now, like, I wouldn't say I like the movie because like so much of it bothers me. And I think like so much of it's just like undercooked, but there are like moments where it's like, this movie feels like a World of Warcraft cutscene, and like it hits. And when it's good, it's so good if you've like played the game. And then there's like so much just like corny, like Ren Fair vibes throughout. Like, it's so chintzy. It's like this, like the humans in particular are just like, it's like a straight to DVD, like Lord of the Rings ripoff or something.
I know. And they got my dude Ragnar from Vikings in the starring role there. And it's not a good look.
Yeah, and every human's facial hair is like, it's so embarrassing in that movie. But like, what's a bummer is like it's based on essentially the first Warcraft game, and which also, like, this game has the weakest story of all Warcraft stuff. But like where Warcraft gets cool, in my opinion, is when you start getting like the other races in, like the night elves and blood elves and you know, the Tauren and like all these other like super interesting races. And then you start getting into this like wild like sci-fi, and it's also kind of like a zombie story because like there's undead who just exist in the world who, you know, were killed and resurrected. And then there's one expansion takes place entirely in the afterlife. And like it gets so wild, and it's like such a bummer to me that this movie like eventually like it performed well globally, but it was like a bomb in the United States, which was supposed to be the target market and all this. And then like it just like killed any hopes of a sequel. But for me, I've always, even when the movie was coming out, like we were deep into like Game of Thrones territory at this point.
Oh, sure.
And I was like, man, why are you doing this as a movie? Like, you can't get like all the good stuff in a movie. Like, this should be an ongoing TV show. So like that's like one of those things I would love to see in my lifetime, is like Warcraft a really well done, like decent budget, good showrunners, good writers, good actors, like Warcraft show, because I think it would be extremely sick.
Well, I had a note in my notes to talk about the legacy of Warcraft. But I feel like we kind of have with talking about World of Warcraft and the movie and all that stuff. But I mean, I think it'd be cool to talk about, because I feel like Warcraft 2 was like the one that I feel like a lot of people, and 3, like people really hold up as like classics of the genre. So I'd like to explore those someday as well. So if you want to play some more, McKenna, actually dive into your childhood. Any other thoughts you had on Warcraft that you wanted to share?
Mostly that I would like to play some more. This made me want to go play some Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3. I kind of wish we had like I was saying I'd play this like reskinned in like other franchises that I like. Like I think this would be a fun like for Zelda Warcraft or like Pokemon Warcraft. You could do a lot with those things.
That was I believe you were talking earlier, Ryan, like what they intended for this game. I think they intended like it was Warcraft Orcs and Humans, because I think they had it in mind like they were going to do like Warcraft : whatever, which I think they just ended up, this game was so popular that they just had to make Warcraft 2. So then they still did that though with StarCraft, but like that I think that was their original intent, was like, oh, we're just gonna make this but with other properties, which has happened with some. I know there's like, you know, everyone's got their take on the RTS, and there are some licensed RTS games, but yeah, none for us, none for the Zelda fan. That feels like way up now. Nintendo, I feel like they've just been like, oh, what if Dynasty Warriors was Zelda? Like,
I mean, Pikmin is an RTS.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's a very Nintendo take on it.
That is,
I thought was really cool when it came out.
Who were we talking to when we were talking about Lemmings? Someone was like, "Oh, this is like Pikmin."
Was it someone on?
It might have been one of our friends
or something.
Yeah. So yeah,
social media.
I feel like there is probably a lot more connection there than we realized. So
yeah, I mean, there was that Pokemon Nobunaga's Ambition DS game.
I love that game, actually. I played that. That rocked. Yeah.
Pokemon, pretty cool.
Pokemon real-time strategy, though, would be awesome. An army of Pikachus. Let me build like 30 Pikachus.
I feel like Game Freak really cooks when they do the spin-offs.
Okay, yeah. Stop what you're doing. Work on this. Yeah. Ryan, anything else you want to say about Warcraft or the world of Warcraft, which they say in the opening video to this as well, which is kind of crazy.
So good. I'm like, you said the thing. Yeah. Actually, anytime someone says like World of Warcraft, it just reminds me of like the South Park episode.
Sure.
If you've seen that,
hey, that ties in. South Park. It's big.
Oh, yeah. You're gonna. You got a bunch of South Park games.
Yeah, a couple. There's a Turok like. Yeah. But yeah, I guess
Turok like with Pea Snow that you.
I forgot about the World of Warcraft South Park episode. But yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
that was pretty good.
That's the legacy.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they were going to do a Warcraft point-and-click adventure game.
Oh, that would be sick.
At one point,
I like that.
Warcraft Adventures. I think that's what it's called, or what it was called. And then it wasn't up to the Blizzard quality level. And this is when they were like insane about. It was like Apple levels of like you need to tweak the corners of this thing so that it like the tiniest details, and I think Apple is like somewhat more sustainable with that, whereas Blizzard were just, I don't know, there's like it's almost like kind of like a metaphor, like the way you just immediately start sending your like peons to harvest lumber and harvest gold, and they're just like these resource machines. I feel like that's what the culture has been at Blizzard at different times, which is a bummer, and that's kind of how they treated their employees. Funny thing, former Blizzard employee who burned out / got kicked out of the company. I don't know if you've heard this story recently. Andy Weir, who would go on to write the Martian and Project Hail Mary.
That's I had no idea. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, wow.
But no, he's like a total example of one of the people who kind of got screwed over at the company, and like some of the like the dickheads there like set him up to fail and like kind of pushed him out in his role, which is what people did with a lot of people during some of like the dark times at the company. So it was very bad culture, but from what I understand and from people that I follow on social media, again, it's apparently improved quite a bit there. And also I think they're making some of the best games they have. The legacy of this game is, it's this thing that was very niche at a time, then got big, and then became something totally different. Like, they don't make Warcraft real-time strategy games anymore, which is kind of a bummer. And people want that.
Yeah, every once in a while they'll just be like, oh, here's like a remaster. Here's Age of Empires 2 again, and they'll try to be like, actually, here's a new one, and they'll be like, just kidding, we're gonna update the old one, like they just update those old games like Warcraft, Age of Empires. I assume Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer got a really good remaster a few years ago. But but Warcraft lives on. There's still novels. I just read one that was released last year. And yeah, it's kind of like it turned into this thing. World of Warcraft was super popular for a while, and then it kind of, there are a million World of Warcraft clones, and then, people kind of got out of MMOs in general, and MMOs turned into things like Destiny and
right, yeah.
But yeah, there's still millions of people and who are still playing.
It was cool to go back and kind of see where it all came from. Yeah, I loved it. For me, it's compared to the other RTS games I play, like it's reverse for me typically. Like I don't play campaign modes I usually just play random maps and stuff like this. But to me, the fun of the game was trying to figure out how they wanted me to play each of these campaign missions, especially because they weren't as complicated, like in their objective compared to like the more interesting ones of later games. So it's, for me, the fun was getting through the campaign mode, a feather in my cap. I beat it. But then going and playing a random map where you were just doing it, you getting wiped out right away. It's less fun. I feel like so for me, it's like, I might play this again someday when it's like, I just want to like play through that mission again, but most likely I'll rather just reach for something new or like a game I like have deeper history with. But I still love this game, and I loved like the experience of going through it. So, it's a weird thing where it's like, oh, I probably won't play this again for a long time, but I loved it. It's one of those games. So
I wouldn't recommend replaying this one. I think maybe. It's like move on to the next ones. It just gets better.
Yeah.
Like I think Warcraft, like I said, StarCraft is like the purest RTS, but like Warcraft 3 is just like, it's so good. Like the story is good, like the variety is good. It's kind of like a role-playing game in a way. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to even get to some of that on our N64 chronology. That's gonna be great. But obviously I want to do more, much like the other gaming platforms at the time. I want to talk about more PC gaming. So Ryan, we'll definitely have to have you back on to talk about some more computer games.
I love playing games on my personal computer.
Gaze upon the destruction you have wrought and the broken bodies of your enemies.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Nick McConnell, and you caught me reading the instruction booklet for Street Fighter II in preparation for my weekly stream Instruction Derby, where I take a look at the creative, fun, and sometimes bizarre lost art of video game manuals. Did you know that, according to the manual for Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo, Ryu was born in 1964, making him 62 years young, canonically? Happy birthday, Ryu. You're looking great. Did you also know that, per the manual for Laser Invasion on the Nintendo, the UN enters a conclave in order to select a new commando? Or did you know that the dancing enemies in Super Castlevania are named Paula Abgul and Fred Askare? These important facts and many more are discovered every Wednesday at noon Pacific on Instruction Derby over at internet website twitch.tv/Nick McConnell. Part of the Soundstone Network.
What would you like to promote?
My personal computer account that you could look at on the World Wide Web. On Blue Sky, I have this account called Standard Issue Computing, which went under many different names. I've been writing and posting about video games for a very long time, but I finally kind of settled into like this is where my soul lies, and it is in the personal computer and personal computer adjacent things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a
Standard Issue Computing. It's a blog too that I post sometimes.
Well, it's a great
very
follow.
casual.
And I think what's fun about it is sometimes even you do themed things, or you'll change it up and focus on something else from time to time. But I mean, even it's cool to me, like what you focus on, because like I said, it's something I only had like brief encounters with. So yeah, it's a good follow. Highly recommend it. Let's see what else for us. We don't, no N64 game coming next because I have no idea where this one's coming out. Give us a follow. All our stuff at flashback64.com. Check out the other podcasts on the Soundstone Network at soundstone.network. Thanks to Lee, our Triforce tier patron, and McKenna. Thank you. Great job.
Great job, Goop.
And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Work complete.
Work complete.
Why do you keep touching me?
Hello, we are Kirby Conversations, a podcast on Kirby along with adjacent subjects like Smash Brothers, HAL Laboratory, and other related Nintendo games.
In each episode, we take an in-depth look at a new Kirby topic, drawing on our decades of experience with the series. I'm Sean Douglas. I'm a writer and podcaster with a background in video game and theater journalism.
And I'm Gigi, the editor-in-chief of Kirby and a big Kirby fan from Brazil. I translate Kirby interviews from Japanese to English and research a bunch of obscure Kirby media.
And I'm Bridget, a longtime fan, commentator, fan artist, and Kirby collector.
Join us for a mix of commentary and original reporting, deep dives into Kirby history, interviews with industry professionals, and more, as together we explore all things Kirby and HAL Laboratory. We're a proud part of the Soundstone Podcast Network, and you can find Kirby Conversations on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.